Hello again, everybody. It is Janet and Jason here to talk to you about what is coming up energetically for this Human Design Week, which, by the way, Jason, starts on Easter Sunday, April 16th, my Easter Sunday, not necessarily yours, and runs through April 21st. So the 22nd, we begin a new week. So let's hop to it, shall we?
Let's hear it, lady.
Woohoo! This last week, the sun has been in the gate 42, which is all about coming to a closure, bringing up endings, and that sort of supported the full moon. Now, as we transition into our next week, we have the sun in gate 3. Now, gate 3 is a really kind of interesting gate. It's a gate of change. And literally, it is probably one of the most mutative energies in the entire human design system. When you look it up in any book, it'll tell you it's about transformation, about change, but often it is about genetic change as well. So sometimes we see this energy of new gene or new gene material being expressed in the species. And so that's what it would look like on the grand scale, a bigger scale. But if we look at it in terms of what's happening on this transition level, what we see is out of endings from last week, we have this potential that change will be enacted in a way that brings us to something new, something exciting, maybe something revolutionary. The caveat with this energy of change is that the change is something that we are always enacting. I mean, you know, the one thing we always say is that change is the one thing we can count on in this world, right? We're always changing. But just because things are changing doesn't always mean that they're adaptive changes. So being cautious in that we're not just making change for the sake of change, but that we're making change that we are almost in response to in our outer world through a need or something that is coming up, so that we don't have maladaptive sort of energies that we're changing to. So in our own lives then, yes, change is in the air, and hopefully the changes are things that are going to be positive and fill a need or fill a gap or create some ease, as opposed to something that you're enacting just for the sake of making change, right? That's the sun. Now the earth this week is at gate 50. I love gate 50. 50 is the gate of transmitting our values.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah?
Let me do...
Did you do a sun card?
Let's do sun.
Okay, let me gallery speak.
Ooh.
Are you ready with the card?
I did more than one card because I was curious about it, because we've been dealing with the death card, as the people who know, who've been watching my radio show and listening to your show about change. It's an interesting card pull because I feel that this change is not, and I'm not a gloom and doom sayer, you know.
I know you're not.
That this change, I fear, is going to come with hard work. It's not going to be boing. Oh, I got it. It's going to cost us. In the past, we have the Lovers showing me the wonderful feeling from the sun. Right now, this is where we're going to be. Work, tired, having to work hard to make this change adaptive. And then at the end of it, we do come out ahead. We come out balanced. We come out balanced. We come out filling in a part that we very muchly have needed. Muchly needed. So that's kind of what's happening with the sun.
You know, and I find that interesting because, for one thing, the last couple of weeks have been very energetically almost burning us out. Yeah, as in, you know, we seem to be rushing from one issue to another issue to another issue, and I think people's nerves endings are sort of tingling here. It's like, oh no, I can't handle more change, or I can't handle more drama, because that's what it's really been all about the last couple of weeks, trauma and drama. So out of the trauma and drama, hopefully you've come and you've focused yourself more inward and on your own path forward. I can't control all the drama that's going on in that outer world, but I can kind of keep my eye focused on what I'm doing, how I'm sharing of myself, what I'm doing with my family and my community. So if I keep my focus there, then I can make changes that actually work for me and not changes that I have to adapt to because it's happening to me, right?
Correct.
So I think that is a really good, maybe a caution a bit about making change for change's sake, or the opposite, which is kind of coming in and going, oh, I can't stand it. I can't make more change. I can't, that I'm so blitzed out by everything else that's been happening that I get stuck. Don't want people to get stuck, right? This is a time of spring, and spring is a time of opening up to new things, right? To blooming and blossoming, and that sometimes requires us to make some change in order to do it.
Yeah, but you got to know where to throw your shit. You got to throw the shit in the soil. You know what I'm saying? That's where it belongs. We need to take that shit, get that stuff down there so we can have some rich stuff to grow from.
Right. And remembering that in our radio show yesterday on Ceres and Pluto, what did we discover? Ceres represents everything from the soil up, anything growing, and Pluto's realm is anything from the soil down, which means that a plant traverses both, right? We get this idea of the cardinal cross, if you will, where what's growing up is springing up because of what's underneath the surface. So remembering that, all things are changing all the time. Transformation is not new on this planet. It is not new in our lives.
Nope.
But we can make the best of it. And so the earth which grounds us, even energetically in human design. By the way, I was just going to say, one way that we can make sure that we are enacting change that's correct is to follow our type and our strategy. I harp on that all the time. Follow your type and your strategy, and then secondarily look at your authority. If you are emotionally defined as a generator, perhaps, and I'm saying that because you and I are both that way, you don't make decisions spontaneously. You don't decide, oh, I'm just going to throw my hat in this ring because it's change, without taking time and considering how you actually feel about it. If you're not sure what your human design type, strategy, and authority is, look it up. Call me, email me, get a reading, get a free chart. If you need guidance into what change is happening in your own life and how to walk through those waters, then you need to contact Jason and have him do a tarot reading for you. And so that's my little plug. So if we look at the earth, going back to the earth, what grounds us is in gate 50 as we go into next week. And gate 50 is, it's part of the tribal energy. It sits at the corner of the spleen and it's moving over toward the sacral. And so a part of it is about our connection and survival and our energy of hopefully not just surviving, but actually thriving. And we do that by sustenance, by nurturing, by educating our children and educating our families about what's good for them, what's healthy for them, and passing on, if you will, the values of the tribe. Now, our tribe can be small. It could be our family, right? Our family unit. Maybe it's just you and a partner. Maybe it's you and some kids. Maybe it's you and parents. It doesn't really matter. That's part of your tribe. Your tribe may be your community. Maybe you belong to a women's group, or maybe you belong to a lesbian community or a gay community. So it can mean, the support that you're receiving from the community. And it can also be our values as a tribe in America, right? We are mostly broadcasting to people who are in the United States, but if you live in another country, then part of your tribe is your identification with the nation you live in. And what are our values as Americans, Jason, right? We value freedom, the freedom to communicate, to be able to say what needs to be said. And so some of these values are being walked on, right? The value of equality. And how long are we going to tolerate some of our values being walked on? That can be a question that starts to come up, particularly in light of some of the war energies that have been prevalent over the last couple of days. And then looking at the next part of the direction that we go to, is it in alignment with our values? Big questions for the next week. What do you
So give me your top 3 descriptive adjectives for this Gate 50 Earth combo.
Transmitting values, nurturing, and educating.
I picked only one card while you were talking, and it's going to go review. One of my favorite cards. See if you can see it. Should I go in closer?
Yeah, it's perfect right where it is.
Look at her.
The
Tell me
10 of
what you
discs.
what do you see going on there?
Well, it looks like she's being downloaded with some kind of information, or she's in ecstasy, or in some way, expressing joy.
I'm going to come on in tight and then pan upwards so you can see what's happening from the very foreground.
Okay.
These beautiful hands. You see this Verdian green moss and plant. Then you see this absolutely Rubenesque woman with her big old titties. And out of her crotch is more flora and fauna. And all those beautiful mandala discs around of her, and her ample breast, and her face looking upward towards the sky.
Which looks ecstatic to me.
Ecstatic. She is happy. She is wonderful. This talks about Earth Mother. This talks about nurturing. This talks very much about this idea that you're being supported by the universe, and you need to give up. Just give up. Know that you are connected. The 10 of discs talking about worth, talking about money, talking about possessions. It talks about the fact that you are being blessed. And so this Earth 51 combo comes to us with respect to the card as a blessing to let us know we are being supported, and that it is a benevolent thing, like you said.
That's actually the perfect card, because the whole time I'm talking, I'm thinking of Mother Nature. The Gate 50 sits on what is the feminine channel, the feminine energy of the tribal circuit in Human Design. So she's a perfect card. And not only that, but as soon as I looked at her, what I thought about was Ceres. Our whole conversation yesterday about Mother Earth, and the fact that Ceres represents that, and how we feed one another, and not just food, but care, and transmitting of the values and the education of our people, etc., our families. So great card. Now, what else is interesting to me in this particular, at the very first day, Easter Sunday, is that suddenly Gate 50 joins up with Gate 27. And Gate 27 is the gate that sits at the opposite end of Gate 50. So we have the completion of that whole nurturing channel on Easter Sunday. So here we are in celebration, right or wrong, of spring rites of passage, or if you're of the religious sort, then you're celebrating a resurrection of Christ. And in this energy, then, that complete channel, we see this very feminine, nurturing, feeding, taking care of, loving energy. It really just, the picture I get is of family dynamics, right? Of coming together as community, loving one another, feeding one another, talking together, laughing together, creating joy and ecstasy that you see in that beautiful card that you drew. So, and what it is that's actually sitting at Gate 27 that day is Venus. So, solidifying our relationships with one another, with our families. And, sometimes, for some people out there who may be listening, you also probably belong to a church, or in some way that kind of experience is part of who you are. And that's your community as well, and how they are nurturing to one another within that community. It's just a beautiful card. It's only active on Easter and Easter Monday, the Monday after Easter. And then we go on to different energy. And from an astrological standpoint, we are also at that transition point this week, Jason, of moving from Aries, the sun moving from Aries out into, or over into Taurus energy. So fundamentally, we shift from that fire energy to the more earthly, grounded energy that we find in Taurus. So interesting week all the way around. I want to look at Mercury, because Mercury energy is catching up with the sun, retrograding backwards toward the sun. And so for a good chunk of the week, Mercury will also be backing up the sun at gate 3, creating the opportunity for change. Now, a word about change here, because Mercury's in retrograde. So we may have to redo things. You just witnessed me having to redo something that I thought was already complete from months ago. And that's the kind of thing that we may expect as we move into the week, is not only the potential for change, but having to redo something before we can actually join in with the change in the right way. Like redo, reevaluate, replay. That was probably just a replay conversation that you just heard. I probably said the same words to someone similar months ago. But here I'm replaying a couple of different things. That's the week we have next week, possibly having to redo, reevaluate before we can actually enact lasting change. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. However, I've lost your thread. Tell me exactly. It's Venus that is at gate
27.
And how does that refer to Mercury?
It doesn't. I just changed planets. I went from Venus to Mercury.
It does. Keep it simple, stupid, for us over here who don't know, okay? I'm trying to follow you over here. So your adjectives for Mercury at this time?
Re-evaluating before we change.
Oh, my good old friend, the Six of Wands, coming at ya. Dun it, done it, done it, done it, done it, done it.
Is it a shark? Is it going to get us?
Tell me what you see, lady.
I see something on fire. It looks like burning off the dross in order to have something new. Six of Wands. I see 6 wands, and it looks like something's being burned across them.
And what's underneath? Right there. It's a what?
An eye.
Eye of who?
God.
Yep. And you see these layers being burned.
Burned away.
You see those wands on there.
I love it. That's awesome.
This is a card that says you have a choice. You can either choose to hurt or hurt more.
Oh, suffer or suffer more?
You know that old, why do I bang my head against the wall? The patient says, because it feels so good when I stop. If you don't reevaluate, you see these layers? These are the layers of your being, mental, physical, spiritual, all that stuff. This is ego being burned away. But moreover, these are lessons learned tough. So it would behoove you, because you have the eye of God with you, and it is a fiery card. It is the last of what needs to be burned away for this time period. And if you don't,
then you're stuck.
Yeah, unfortunately, change costs us. You have to give up some ego. You have to give up some stuff in order to get to the next thing. But interestingly enough, learning is the only thing that'll never let you down. So. Right.
And sometimes you have to jump into something beyond your comfort zone, right? You have to step out of your comfort zone. The only thing I can say is when you're going to step out of your comfort zone, make sure you're doing it according to type and strategy. Let me just throw that out there yet again for everybody. And I want to go to a different place right now, Jason, one that I don't normally do in the context of the weekly energy report. But it came to my attention this morning, so I got to bring it to your attention, that the North Node and the South Node have been occupying a specific place in the human design chart for over the last several weeks. And how I missed this, I don't know. Maybe it's just the right and perfect time to remind everybody that abundance comes from spirit, not from what you do. In other words, abundance is our birthright, and it doesn't come from you being a good person or working hard or working your fingers to the bones or any of those things that we have in our vernacular that makes it seem like in order to be abundant that you have to do work. Because gate 55 is where the South Node is sitting. And that's a reminder to us that our gifts and our talents are where our joy resides. And when we are exercising our gifts and talents out in the world, that we are automatically triggering the abundant flow of the universe. And so sharing of yourself, sharing of your gifts and your talents, and whatever that is for you personally, really enacts that cornucopia effect, right? Where just abundance is coming at you. And if sharing your gifts and talents means that you're singing songs, or that you're reciting poetry, or that you're, a comedian and you're at a comic club and you're going to be doing something that really brings you joy, you are in alignment with the flow of the universe. And that isn't work. You know how it is when you're doing a reading for somebody, Jason, you don't even know how many hours might go by because you're just in joy because of what you're doing.
You're in the flow.
Exactly. You're in the flow. So this is just a reminder. And I wanted to bring this up for sure because the nodes are about ready to shift signs. As we move into the next couple of weeks, the nodes will be leaving the part of the chart that they're in right now, which astrologically is in Virgo and Pisces. And they will move on into Leo and Aquarius. And those next lessons that we will be learning are going to be really about sharing from joy, sharing from love, sharing from a place of creativity. And so get used to it now, right? Accompany it now. I want to tell you, let's see, I'm just looking right now when the nodes shift. Wow. They're going to be shifting to the gates 29 and 30, saying yes to the right things and getting your desires fulfilled.
Yay.
So we'll be talking more about that as we go on.
Yay.
But if I just look at that now, that shifts May 9th, just to give everybody a heads up, a little less than a month. So begin this process now of discerning what it is that is unique to you that you want to share to the world, and then doing it with all the joy and pleasure that you can experience. And that prepares us for the next step that we take.
Excellent.
Shortly. So, do you want to draw a card on that one, or should we just close for today? Maybe we should save that card until we actually make that shift, or?
Yes, let's do that. I think that's a nice way of buttoning it up today. It was what you said. I liked very much what you said. So I think that works. And I do want to know more about the dynamic of this north and south node, maybe in the next video, of its relevance towards the chart.
And just a quick word on that, so that other people may have that same question. The north node is your destiny or your life path trajectory, what direction you're headed. The south node is where you've been, right? So your karma, if you will. But I also look at it as the cup that holds the gifts and the talents that you brought with you into this life. And the north node is when I pour those gifts and talents out. How do they get expressed?
Beautiful, beautiful.
I almost poured my coffee out, but I don't want to do that.
It's China syndrome. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason, for joining me today to talk some more about the weekly energy report. And everybody, take care. Have a happy Easter and an awesome next week. Bye for now.